How wedded are you, how committed are you to returning the country to surplus?
Well, I'd like to do it by 2014-15, and that's the government's stated aim and goal, and we're doing everything we can to get there. If you look at the start of this year, I came out and gave a speech that said, look, it is obviously very volatile internationally, and Europe's going worse than we thought. And if I thought that getting back to surplus would make things much worse and drive the economy into recession, then we've given ourselves the political freedom, if you like, to take a step back from that. But we're not walking away from that 14-15 target unless we absolutely have to.
You have indicated that you're willing to bridge another couple of years if that does happen. Can you commit then to no more cuts to the public service than what you've already asked the public service to do?
So if you're talking about the 3%, efficiency dividends that we're asking, well, I don't see a change in that. In other words, that's the dividend we've asked for, and that's probably squeezing the lemon, if you like, as hard as we can.
So has it been squeezed as hard as it can in Budget 2012? So Budget 2013, if that surplus track does go out, would show the bridging is all more borrowing, or
there's two things going on, isn't there? One is the amount of new budget spending, and in the last two budgets that's been zero, and prior to that was $1 billion a time. Contrast that with Michael Cullen spending well over $3 billion a year every year for the last 5 years. The second bit though is that there's an efficiency dividend. In other words, reduce the amount of expenditure you have. If you're asking me, are we asking for bigger reductions? The answer at this point is Bill English has never mentioned that to me. I don't think that's likely. We have a new budget spending component of $800 million for 2013-14 budget. Could we reduce that and have another zero budget? The answer is yes, we could. But our preference would be to spend a little bit if we could, because we're pushing as hard as we can.
If you have another zero budget, your problem with the teachers then, you're at 114 million, which you're going to put that into that extra 800 million. So that's creates another problem, doesn't it? So you can't have another zero budget.
We haven't guaranteed that. What we've said is our preference is to find that prior to 2013's contingency, and we are looking for ways to find that 114 million, but we've said if we can't find it, then we'll park it up against 2013.
You'll have to if you're going to do another zero budget, won't you?
Well, if we can't find it, though. So for a start, let's say our first option is preference is to try and find it from savings now. If we can't, we'll put it against 2013. If we can't find it and we have to park it against 2013, you're absolutely right. We'd have to have that as a bare minimum. Now, yeah, in the real world, I'd rather have a small contingency for 2013 because we've pushed hard. I mean, we've literally spent $700 million extra over the course of basically 4 budgets, and that's tight. That's really tight. I mean, Cullen spent about $20 billion in that period, so that is a big contrast.
The other side of the budget, obviously, is the growth forecasts, and we've been through the growth forecasts where the Treasury's right, where the Treasury's wrong. It seems, though, that when you came into power, you're talking about rebalancing, and Bill English had this fantastic chart, non-tradable activity versus tradable activity, and that's why you needed to rebalance the economy. That doesn't seem to be happening. The Reserve Bank in their monetary policy statement made the comment that restraint in capital investment over the last few years had limited innovation and inhibited future growth. The budget had comments that the shift in the drivers, is going to consumption, and the Reserve Bank said that. And in the budget, the growth is being led by the Canterbury rebuild, and the external sector, the export sector, is going to be subdued. So that rebalancing hasn't really been happening, has it? And English even accepted that in front of the Select Committee. So does more need to be done then? And do you accept what English said, that the rebalancing hasn't been as sufficient as you'd like?
Okay, so firstly, I mean, I wasn't at the Select Committee, so I'm always reluctant to accept a version of what someone signs up to,
because it depends, sufficient as we'd like.
It depends on the questions that are put to them. Secondly, I'm not sure I'd characterise everything in that way, but let me give you my summary very briefly of what I think it looks like. Firstly, I think we are rebalancing quite well. So, in fact, overall, exports have been growing. What is causing the Reserve Bank to have some concerns at the moment is not actually the volume of exports, it's the prices are backing off. So the Governor said to me, look, it's the terms of trade that are coming down, which is the price of exports over imports. In fact, actually, you've seen Fonterra's last couple of auctions be better than people thought, but clearly the 6 before that, I think, were quite poor. So, okay, or at least were declining. So what is driving that is real uncertainty about what's happening in Europe and the impact that's going to have on China. So all of those things might be of concern. But if you look at the general rebalancing of the economy, we've had a number of things happen. New Zealanders are saving. Now, you know, we can actually argue...
Treasury thinks that's going to slow down now, and part of the growth assumptions are based on New Zealanders spending more. Funnily enough, actually, I mean, the one thing the Treasury Secretary said to me, I think on Wednesday night when I was talking to him about it, is that they're still quite optimistic that they're actually saying for this decade, New Zealanders are going to save more than spend less than they earn, so they're going to have positive savings rates. So that is actually changing. Our net international investment position and current account balance are both forecast to deteriorate.
The current account, I mean, we can get into really technical debates, but the current account was partly very narrow because of the Christchurch earthquake repatriations. It has some impact on other things. But let me just make this one overall point and then we can go from there.
Okay, I do have to interrupt you there. I'm sorry, Prime Minister, we do have to go to break.